I was muted. I'm so sorry. Good morning. My name is Jessica Altman. I am going to be presenting today on learning through inquiry using hands-on manipulatives in Tier 1 instruction. I'm going to put you here so that we can see the first part, and then I'll be moving the camera throughout, especially toward the end when I'm giving a feedback. Because it is anonymous, it will just mostly be focused on me. So you will see different manipulatives at different tables, and you'll see why we're going to do that in just a minute. So on each table, I'm going to have different sets of manipulatives in the center. The way the seating is set up is we're about 2 to 3 at a table. This will be for turn and talks and discussion parts. And then whole group participation. I also have it set up like this because there is one point where we will be adding examples to a Jamboard, and if for some reason someone does not have their technology device with them, then they will be able to at least provide examples with a partner. All right. So I'm going to pause. We are all set up. We have the slides ready to go for the presentation. We have the manipulatives ready to go for our hands-on part, and then our participants will be here soon. Good morning. Come on in. You need a chair. And a table. I'll just go up and over. All right. Thank you for getting that door. If you do not have your Chromebook, no worries. But you just make sure you're sitting next to someone that you can at least like whisper ideas to in a little while. We'll go this way. Okay. Okay, so I will tell you that this presentation is on the collaborative drive. So CES Collaborative, it'll be under Math Resources. So we put it there so that you can always go back to it later. Especially when we get to the end part with the Jamboard. But what we're going to be talking about is learning through inquiry. So we're really going to be focusing on our hands-on manipulative in Tier 1 instruction. Will you be my clicker? Thank you. Okay, so at your table, each of you have different sets of manipulatives. And for this purpose, it does not matter the manipulative. If you need more, just let me know. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the manipulatives at your table to solve this problem. So it says, a farmer has some cows and some chickens on a farm. Altogether, there are 24 animal legs on the farm. How many cows and how many chickens did the farmer have on the farm? So I want you to first just use your manipulatives to solve this problem. How many cows, how many chickens? And yes, you can work with your partner. cows. Got it?
Technically, that's 4 pounds.
Four cows. Okay, so now we're gonna try it a different way. Is there another? Show me another one. Show me another one. We come up with. Oh, you did it. Your chickens. Can we group them by two? Okay. And then these are cows and they're 4. They have 4 legs. 24. Okay. So now I want you to try to solve it down. Is there another? Got it. Yeah. I'm coming that way. Is there another candy? Now I want you to try to Oh, you did? Okay. Oh, but see, we're using manipulatives. Wait, so that means 4 from 2, it would take. It was there. I think it was 92. Okay, I'm gonna give you about 1 more minute to try and come up with as many ways as possible. Okay, then chicken for a cow. Have you heard of those chickens? 2 chickens, that's for 1 pound. Okay, try 1 more way. You got 1 more minute. Okay. 24. This is 20%. Okay, let's see. Mitchell, do you want to click the next one? All right, we're coming back in 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much for playing with our manipulatives this morning. It's fun though, but that's what the kids, they like that fun. They don't realize, oh, I'm learning, oh, I'm doing math problems. It's, oh, I'm playing with manipulatives. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Turn and talk. Most of you are at tables of 2, if not, just grab onto another table, even if you want to pair up and be the 4s. How often should we be using manipulatives in our K1 and SLL classes? How often should we be using them? Every day. Okay, I heard a word from many people. I heard most of you say what? Every day. Every day. I want you to remember that as we go through this and when we get to the end, thinking about, are we intentionally using math manipulatives every day? Realistically, are we using them intentionally for math purposes? Ms. Schultz? Okay, so we know that our math manipulatives are our concrete hands-on models. Without our concrete hands-on models, we are not able to completely understand pictorial and abstract. Sometimes what we see is we jump to pictorial or we jump to abstract, and then what happens is then we see, oh, maybe they didn't get it, maybe I need to go backwards. Without us initially starting with that, I feel like I'm in your way, starting with that concrete model, they're not going to be able to conceptually learn how to apply it in the abstract. It can be anything. I mean, we have foam cubes here. We have just little transparent counters here. We have Unifix cubes. They had so many different animals, and then we gave them coins because they did have cows and chickens. We had teddy bear counters. We had shapes. We had tangrams. We had our unit from our base 10 blocks. It doesn't always have to be just our base 10 blocks. It can be anything. If you have a lot of pencils in your room, get some pencils. Whatever your collection is, that can be your manipulative. Excuse me. A lot of times when I'm in y'all's classrooms, I see great manipulatives, that small group with that tier 2, tier 3 targeting. If we're able to incorporate them more in that tier 1 instruction, we will not need to use so much in tier 2, tier 3. If we're waiting till tier 2, tier 3, we've already missed our biggest opportunity. We haven't missed the kids, we haven't missed the mark, but we missed our biggest opportunity for them to foundationally understand. Go ahead, Ms. Schultz. Thank you. Okay, so thinking about lesson planning. Sorry, I know y'all already planned for next week because most of y'all meet on Tuesdays. But thinking ahead with our lesson plans, have we purposely and intentionally picked out the manipulatives that go with our upcoming units, with our upcoming lesson? What are we doing this week? These are just 4 key points that we can use. Have we changed them out? Are we still using the same manipulatives we've been using day after day after day? Are we providing variety for our kiddos? Are they actively participating? I know something that I've heard Ms. Jordan talk about is making sure we have 100% of our students 100% engaged. When they have these hands-on manipulatives, they're able to stay engaged. We do need to set the expectations and procedures. They're not just, here's the bag, go do this sheet, please. Good luck. We do have to set those procedures and expectations, which y'all do a great job of. I don't see your kids ever typically using the manipulatives inappropriately. We just want to make sure that it's intentional to what we're doing in math. It's not, we're creating my bed for my doll while doing my math sheet. Like, it needs to go with what we're doing. Okay, so now, thinking about your lesson plans, thinking about the discussions that you have with your teams, with partners on your teams, with even other schools during PD. Realistically, how often have you purposely and intentionally incorporated manipulatives in your instruction? Turn and talk to your neighbor. It's supposed to be your group with your teams. Right, right, and that's the biggest thing. Is it appropriate? But no, that is it appropriate? And is it working? Yes.
I pulled out the money and we talked about like when.
Yes.
I have time and I'm on the counter. Just trying to find different manipulatives. Or the three that we did. The break.
And then reading out. That's perfect. I love that.
And then they come together and then they do one on their own, and then they kind of like one with the partner, and so they're kind of
Sort of.
Well, and I think it's something like I explained to her, like I do, you see them and have my kids work on them. If you sort of-
Yeah.
Yes, that's how much you're All right, I'm gonna have y'all come back in a couple, 3, 2, 1, start. She's picking me up. Mine does that all the time, it's okay. Couple things I wanted to talk about. I didn't get to this side of the room, so I'm gonna have y'all share out in just a second. But I did want to talk about a couple things we heard on this side of the room. We heard about using manipulatives when they're appropriate for your kids. So if you have certain kiddos who it might not be appropriate, maybe you are more facilitating the use of how they are using the manipulatives. First grade, love them. They were talking about that they use their Unifix cubes and things like that for friends of 10 and things like that. They said, but just sometimes taking the time to sort them by color. I said, oh my gosh, guess what Kinder's working on? Collections and sorting. So maybe these could be one of the collections we put in the classrooms. They then sort them. If they sort by color, we can keep it by color and pass it back on. So just that vertical. Ms. Neidecker, she and Ms. Pez were talking about they're currently on a unit for problem solving. This will be not their first time for problem solving. So she said she has some students who they do need the manipulatives where others do not. When we have units that spiral, because both of y'all do, in the first 9 weeks, that first time, yes, hands-on manipulatives, hands-on, hands-on, hands-on. Second 9 weeks, you'll know which ones still need those hands-on versus that pictorial. Once you keep spiraling it, you'll know the ones that still need it. Okay? Conversations over here. Who wants to share out?
We talked about having them available and accessible for all, no matter what. And so those people who really do need them still in the third spiral back to this,
Yes.
don't feel like they're the only ones reaching in their desk getting their manipulatives out.
No, and I love that because that is something that we're going to talk about when they're coming and looking in their walkthroughs and things. Part of T-Test is students being able to advocate for themselves, being able to know where the supplies are, get the supplies and manage them themselves. So if I know I need these counters, I can go and get them wherever they are in the room. So no, thank you for that.
We were kind of saying the same thing. And then I mentioned that for me, organization is a big, I have ADD, so organization is a big thing that for me that I have to have in place.
Yes.
So like I have all my manipulatives, they're all labeled, but they're all big, like
Mhm.
groups of things. So if I take the time to organize them by like, for each table, it'll be quick for me to grab whatever manipulative I want, quick to grab for the tables, because the passing out of it and all that takes so much time.
Yes.
So how can I make it easier to where I can have more time to do that?
Well, and that's just it. Once you put those structures and systems in place, it's just like everything else that we have in our classroom. The kids are able to pick it up, they're able to do it, and it takes one more thing off your plate and puts it on theirs. Especially with GE, putting it back on the kiddos. Make it a job in your class, make it a couple jobs. You have this side of the room, you have this side of the room.
Can I ask a question? I was in somebody's room last week. It was you, Ms. Kitchen. Turn around. Can you explain your pouches that you have, your math pouches for your kids?
Yeah, everyone in first grade does it. Our pouches have all their manipulatives in there, and like hundreds, charts, cubes, unit cubes, so it's in their desk available for them.
Yes. If you actually jump a couple slides ahead, Ms. Schultz, I think it's like one more. So these are some of the examples that we saw in first grade. And some have the little buckets, some have the zipper pencil pouches and things like that. And so what the kiddos were working on is they were working on 10 more, 10 less, 1 more, 1 less. And what they were doing is they were building it with their manipulatives, and then they would, I'll be quick. I promise. And then they would.
Thank you.
No.
Time to report your morning due. And a happy
We're all
Friday.
having Fridays. And then they would put it into the chart. So they were going from the concrete to the pictorial, and then later they would be able to do the abstract. If you'll go back one more, this is just another example, and then I'm gonna leave you with homework, I'm sorry. This was another one. This was roll it, build it, write it. So they rolled, these are 10s and 1s dice, and it told you how many 10s, how many 1s, and then they built it with their place value blocks, and then they put it into expanded form. Okay, so we talked about like how first grade has their pouches with their manipulatives, their base 10 blocks. I showed the roll it, expand it. So you roll the dice, expand it with your base 10 blocks, and then you can write it in expanded form. What we're gonna do is I have this Jamboard right here. You're gonna click on it. And what we're gonna do is, because y'all's units kind of lend themselves to each other, I want you to put in ideas of how you can incorporate tier 1 instruction using the manipulatives. So kinder, how are you foundationally using them that we can reference back to intentionally use, that first grade can also use, and then first grade, how are you using them that kinder could then build off of. So we're gonna go to this Jamboard and I'll give you a few minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna go through a couple of these. I know there's 2 different ones, but I'm just gonna stay on this one. So we talked about, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Anytime we're introducing a new concept, absolutely. If we're introducing a new concept, we need to have them. We talked about the individual toolkits. I love with the visual aids because that's going to help our kiddos move from that concrete to the pictorial. And then once they have mastered that, they'll be able to go to the abstract. Love that. Incorporated in math stations. Absolutely. You're making my heart happy. So if we're using them in the tier 1 instruction, then we are making it to where students can apply it on their own independently. So in those math stations, absolutely, which will then help them to feel more confident to where they are able to advocate for themselves, to be able to go and get what they need when they need it in our daily assignments, our independent practices, in our assessments. During guided math, yes. This one is hard to read, I'm sorry. But I will look at them. I'm sure they are great. So that's fabulous. The last thing we're going to talk about is the next round of walkthroughs by our principal and 2 APs. Okay. So within our walkthroughs, some things that they're going to be looking for is that are we purposely and intentionally using our manipulatives, our hands-on in our tier 1 instruction, excuse me, and are students able to advocate for themselves? Do they know where the manipulatives are in your classroom? Are they able to go and get them, like you were talking about with organizing? Are those structures in place and systems in place for them to go and get them? We talked about, can they explain? So if I have, going back to that original problem, if I have my manipulatives out, and I know, am I able to not only answer the question, but explain my thinking? Do I have the number sense behind it? Not just, here are my cows, here are my chickens, but explaining, these are my cows, they have 4 legs. When I do 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, that gives me 16. Then I have my chickens, and explaining the number sense and reasoning behind it. This is the big key piece with manipulatives. Not only are we using them, but can we explain our thinking with them? And that they're just used in multiple ways. So multiple manipulatives, multiple ways of thinking. So again, this will be on our collab drive, and please keep adding to the Jamboard, especially as you are going through your instruction and your planning. How are you using them in different ways? Because then we'll be able to vertically continue this with our 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So as we're looking at how they use them, we'll be able to foundationally change some of our practices, and they'll be able to change some of their practices based on how you use them. Okay, I am going to pause, sorry, because we are going to do our feedback survey, but it is going to be anonymous. All right, so I have passed out the feedback surveys. What I'm gonna do, I went back to the original screen because this is the title of the professional development that we're doing. So I'm gonna have you put that on your survey, and then you're just gonna answer the questions. Some are scaled and some are short answer. Be honest, please. This feedback is for me. It's not for admin. It's not going to come back to you. That's why it is strictly anonymous. I'm going to leave the room for you to fill it out, and then I'm just gonna have you put it face down on this table right here. It is really just feedback for me, not only based on how the professional development went, but how important this is to our campus. How important is the effective use of manipulatives? How does this apply to your classroom? How does this apply to your kids? We have multiple grade levels. We have kinder, we have first, we have structured learning lab, but we all have differences within our classrooms besides the same grade level. So how does this apply to you? What are some takeaways that you're taking with you? And then if you need feedback or want to ask questions and have follow-up, again, if you want to keep it anonymous, you can add those questions and I can go back into the presentation or into the Jamboard and add that information without you having to come and ask. If it's something you're wanting to come and ask, my door is always open. Please come and ask. Or if you're wanting one-on-one, write that down. I will always be happy to come and model. I'll be happy to lesson plan with you to see how you can incorporate more of the different manipulatives in tier 1 to then continue in either tier 2, tier 3 stations, all the different things we put on the Jamboard. Questions? I know that was really fast for the time allotted, but that's why if you need anything, please add it to your feedback form, your survey, or please reach out. I am always here for you. Okay, so when you're done, if you'll just put them face down, I am going to exit the room so that you can do this anonymously. And if you need anything, I'll just be right next door so you can always come ask. Thank y'all so much.